After nearly a decade in the pipelining and infrastructure rehabilitation world, Michael Rothenberg is still chasing the same thing that started this podcast: answers. Join him as he sits down with manufacturers, contractors, and industry experts shaping the future with the no-dig rule. This is Reline Unknown.
Morning, Andy.
Hey, morning, Michael.
How are you?
How's your week? I'm doing good, thanks.
Yeah.
How's your week been?
It's been busy. It's been a busy few weeks. Even just sitting behind this computer, being able to get organized and regroup, it's still been busy. So it'll be interesting next week when I'm back on the road, but I'm glad to not be behind my computer for one more week in a row.
Yeah. So about that, it sounds like we're going to be traveling together next week for a few days.
Yeah, meeting up in Chelan for the Rothenberg Conference of Washington. And I had to fly into Portland, though, see a couple people along the way. So a lot of windshield time, but some long overdue meetings and culvert inspections. So that's what I prefer doing. There's definitely time and place for sitting behind the computer, and I don't mind not sending emails at 7:30 at night from the hotel room. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back out there.
Yeah, good. How
about you? You flying up, driving up?
Yeah, I'm driving up. Have a few customers to stop and see all the way through Pendleton, and then I think we're meeting up in Tri-Cities area, probably around 11 or 12, and then up to Chelan from there after a few meetings there. So, yeah. One of the segments we deal with is in the ag industry with the TV pipe side of things. So, have a handful of ag people and counties, different folks that we're going to be talking to all the way up. So, should be a good week of getting out and seeing customers.
The potato pipe or vent pipe, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. All right.
Pipe. So.
Very good. Well, I know from talking with Nick recently, he was thinking for one of these Reline Unknowns, maybe go through some recent projects, or now at this point that we're in March, not so much a 2025 recap podcast, but I know you were on site for a Snap-Tite install recently. Figured you could share some pictures, talk a little bit about how that went. Was that your first time on site with Snap-Tite?
Yeah, well, it was my first time with Snap-Tite, yes. I've been on site on a Spiralite project, but this is the first time with Snap-Tite. But I'm going to back you up just a little bit because you said March. It's March Madness. I got to ask you one question. Yes. Who's your team?
Well, it's Miami Redhawks, of course. And you're asking me today, not yesterday when we were still undefeated.
All right. So are they a lock? Are they going to be in the tournament?
They better be. I saw something saying that they were in the first four in. So we'll see. I mean, 31-1. I don't care who their schedule is. You would think that just deserves a spot. I mean, there's 64 teams. You gotta let the 31-1 team in, I think.
Yeah. Good.
See if we can cause a little bit of chaos. Just because even if we're like a 14 seed and we get to play, I don't know, BYU, would that potentially be a matchup? That'd be fun.
Actually, it could be. Yeah. So, of course, I follow BYU, and this was supposed to be our year, and it's been a letdown. Lots of injuries. Anyways, but they went on a good run in the Big 12 tournament, and had a 4-game winning streak, and so now we'll just see what seeding we are in the tournament. And I still think they can be an Elite 8 team, depending on their matchup, their bracket. Right. But I also have the blue goggles, so
yes.
I can say that. I wish Nick was on here so I could wager with him on some kind of bet.
I'm sure he'll gladly take that text afterwards. So they beat Arizona. Was that the game that I would have watched on ESPN like a month ago?
No, they didn't. No, they beat. I gotta go back and remember. They beat the number 5 or 6 team in the nation. But I think it was
Iowa State.
Have to go back and look. Iowa State, that's right.
Yes. So, I turned it on. I was doing some meal prep, and I figured, this would be something good to talk about with Andy.
Yeah,
and that's when I sent my friend a text saying, one of my Red Hawk friends, and I said, there is no way we can make it past the second round. Just the fact that we get out-rebounded by your normal MAC team, and then for us to go play legitimate D1 Power 4 athletes, it would just be overpowered, outmatched, too short.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited. We're going to be at the conference during the opening rounds, and so our hope is that we have a screen on in the background, and it'll attract some people to our booth to check in and see how things are playing out on March Madness, right?
So, and if not, we'll have something to do as well.
That's right. All All right. Yeah. So the project I wanted to talk about, it was a fun project because it's the first install I've actually physically been on and actually been able to help with. And so I'm going to share my screen. So this was a project up in Tacoma, Washington. I believe it was 42 inch. Was the existing pipe 42 or 48? 42 inch, I believe. So the existing pipe was 42 inch. It was at an industrial business site. The contractor had been hired to replace. They had existing 42 inch CMP, which had been in the ground between, about 50 years. They were showing signs that the service life of their pipe had been met. They were getting some soil into the pipe. They were having a few problems with it. So they got hired to go replace the drainage pipe, 42 inch pipe. Most of the project, and this is kind of an interesting note, most of the project was 42 inch pipe, 2 feet of cover. It was, it wasn't be hard to replace that pipe. Just dig it up and replace it. However, there was a section of this project where they were going to have a lot of difficulty and very high costs associated with digging this pipe up. So I'm sharing my screen here. You see here the Snap-Tite. So on this project, they had a small trench box, limited room to actually be able to install pipe. So they used 9-foot sticks. You move forward here. You can see they had limited room, just barely enough room for 9-foot sticks. Lots of utilities across the area. That's why they chose to use 9-foot sticks. I think once they called us, how quick did you have pipe up to them? It seems like it was about 10 days.
Something like that. Yeah, I remember it was in stock and then it wasn't, so they needed another week and a half to cut more pipe and then, or no. Oh, no. Yes, because it was going to be extensive lead time out of Arizona. Luckily, we stock other Snap-Tite in South Carolina, so we, ate a little bit of freight cost, but we had that pipe on site, or we had the trucks in there within 48 hours. So then it was a matter of just the 3-day transit time cross country, I'm guessing.
Yeah, good. So, and to note that we can typically, have pipe on site inside of a week to 2 weeks, depending on the project and the diameter. But that's what we shoot for, is be able to get pipe there quickly. So I'm going to go to this picture right here. You can see why they were having difficulty with the thought process of digging up across the front of this building to replace the existing pipe. It was pretty deep. It was about 8 feet deep at this point. So that's why they have the trench boxes. And you can see all the way at the end. I don't know if you can see it very well, but all the way at the end, this was the line. This is where the manhole was on the other end. So this was roughly 190 feet of it across the front of this building. You can see there's light poles, there's power poles, there's picnic benches, landscape, lots of sprinkler utilities. And so when the contractor heard that there was a product that they might be able to reline that portion with, he gave us a call. We were able to get pipe to him quickly, but he put the numbers together for pushing the pipe inside of it, putting the Snap-Tite inside of it, building bulkheads and grouting it. Once he put those numbers together, he was able to save his customer a tremendous amount of money versus repairing the front of this business. But also was able to put a little more money in his pocket, I believe.
Absolutely.
So, it worked all the way around. They did have some concerns because they'd never used Snap-Tite before. And so we were able to talk them through the process. It's really not a difficult process. Can sound intimidating if you've never done it before, but we also sent one of our partners, basically infield reps up there to help them install it. So when he showed up, they started putting the pipe together, and it took them about an hour to get the first piece together. But it was because they weren't prepared. They didn't have the equipment they needed. So a quick trip to the hardware store. So it took us about an hour to get them the right equipment, the right shackles, come-alongs, chains, and stuff. Once we got back to the job site, they installed the remaining 180 feet of pipe in about 4 hours. So they were turning about 15 minutes of pipe is what the turn time was from that point on. So the contractor had budgeted a few days to install this pipe. Again, with our support and expertise in the pipe reline rehab of Snap-Tite, we were able to help them get through the job in about, like I say, 4 hours to push the pipe. They started about 9. They were done pushing pipe at 1 o'clock. The next day, they built the bulkheads in the ends of the pipe, and on the third day, they grouted it in a couple of hours. So really, it was a 3-day turnaround. You can imagine the time it would have taken to dig across the front of that building and then put everything back the way it was. So it was a really cool project and a really good case study in how Reline Rehab can be a really good tool, to help in these types of situations. So
absolutely.
Anything else you have to add on it? Feel free.
No, my one question, and you might not have the number, but do you know what it would have cost to replace this entire pipe?
I don't. All I heard was that he was able to give his customer a big credit, but also be able to take some of the money back to himself.
Right.
He didn't indicate how much it was, but
no worries.
Yeah. So again, a perfect case study in how Snap-Tite or our Reline Rehab products can help the industry in all kinds of different situations, right?
Yeah.
This one was a deep bury. They had utilities, and it wasn't a traffic constraint, but I would argue that it kind of was, because this is the front entrance to the building.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a lot of construction entrance liability there too. So
yeah, safety, timeline, inconvenience, all of it.
Yep. So
right.
Yeah, that was our job up in Tacoma that we just
very nice did. And appreciate you getting up there. I can't. That wasn't my Idaho trip. I had a local conference that week, so I appreciate you filling in.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And shout out to ISCO and their representatives to come up and help the contractor know how to install it, which was great education for me, because now I can go out on site and kind of walk them through it as well. So yeah, it was a good project. It was fun.
Yeah, and for those who are listening to this and have not met Patrick yet, he's personally installed over 100,000 feet of HDPE liners. So he now works for ISCO on the Snap-Tite and Spiralite team. He comes out on site, gets in the pit with folks, and actually helps them install the liners with his years and years of experience. So I'm sure we'll have him on at some point to walk through some of his more interesting projects. But for now, just a little bit of background on Patrick. And then I guess that's my turn now. So I had a handful of projects that could potentially be talked about today. I'll see how much time we have and see where that leaves us as far as how many projects I can get through. Let me scroll through my pipe folder. What year is this? All right, this is last May. Perfect. And I'll probably dig into some of these a bit more in depth at a later date. For now, I think most of the ones I had in mind for today are all Colorado projects. Here's a box in central Colorado. You can see the sag in the middle. It was a first-time installer of any culvert lining product. They ended up going with Channeline, just given the geometry or the profile of this hose pipe, the fact that it was undersized, and they couldn't compromise hydraulics. So I got there a little bit early, a couple gashes in the hose of the wall pipe and the wall of the pipe, but more importantly, just the sag. And if this road was ever dug up, to get from point A to point B, unless there's a secret road I don't know about, that's probably at least an hour and a half detour. So this was a pretty critical piece of infrastructure. And so contractor showed up 11:24 a.m. with that first stick of pipe. I think they had 3 sticks on that first truck, and then had to go back to the staging yard about an hour and a half away to pick up the next couple sticks of pipe. But it was a short run. They lowered the 8-foot sections down one at a time. You can see it was a fairly tight fit. I think it was a 12-foot by 7-foot host box, and then they did 11-foot 6-inch by 6-foot 6-inch liners. And it's a little bit more of a low-tech install than even most Channeline low-tech installs typically come out to be. So they just had a couple wood 2x4s, a steel beam, and then 1x1 we're able to push or jab the liner sections together. So it's going to be quick, but You can see there where the joint's not quite connected yet, and they just gave it a little pop, and it's good to go. And then from there, they put the steel beam back across and push liner section slowly into the hose pipe. So it moves slightly slow. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, so I have a few questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One is, you said they snapped it together. Does that get epoxied together? How does the channel line hold together at the joints?
Yeah, so unfortunately the sample's a little big and clunky and probably wouldn't focus with the camera, but it's a bell and spigot joint similar to that, more so of Spiralite than Snap-Tite, because it doesn't snap and lock together. Typically folks are just pushing it into place. It's if you were to pull it, yeah, you could pull the liner apart, which is obviously not the goal. So as they put the weight behind it and continue adding more sections, it's more and more in place. And even with this one just being a 40-foot run, not to jump too far ahead, but at the end of the day, they just put the steel beam into the ground. They were expecting a bunch of snow overnight, so in case that melted before they got back on site and had any sort of velocity with the water, they didn't want to dislodge the liner and push it out at all. So they just put the steel beams in to prevent that. But that liner's not going anywhere, especially after bulkheads and grouting.
Yeah. So interesting to note, and I know the answer to this question. I do have another question.
Yeah.
Because I forgot to mention on the Snap-Tite, it is a fully structural rehab product. So can this product be designed to be fully structural for whatever loading requirement might be needed?
Yes, you beat me to it. Good question. And so this culvert was actually lined and extended. So yeah, Channeline, Spiralite, Snap-Tite, all rated for direct bury. I think Channeline's been installed in over 40 countries at this point. So if you have any highway, railroad specifications of any sort, I don't. There's E80, HL93, HS20, like whatever spec you need us to meet, we can design it accordingly.
Okay, cool. What's the turnaround time on Channeline material? Like how long does?
Yeah, I think they are currently estimating 10 to 12 weeks or 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay. Pretty
more
short.
than half that time. As far as custom build liners go, it's very short. And where was I going with that? So, more than half the time the pipe's just in transit. The manufacturing process is actually fairly quick. It's just got to go on the boat, got to get loaded on the boat, go across, hop on a railroad, and then get delivered to the job site. So that's where most of the time spent. But then back to timing, the install timing was extremely quick. So again, first piece of pipe was in at 11:24, and by 5 o'clock, even with the hour to go get the next couple sections of liner, they had this all put together and extended to the appropriate lengths very quickly. And then I didn't get back over there until later in the year to get some finished install pictures. So just to flip through a few of those, they just put the new wing walls on, had it all grouted within a week. Again, I just couldn't get back out there until August when I was on my way to a wedding in central Colorado.
Yeah, very cool.
A good project, first time installer. I always enjoy working with first time installers just to show how simple this all is. Just takes a couple, in this case, a steel beam and a couple wood 2x4s to get the job done.
Yeah, very cool.
So I'll share one more from this year. I guess on the subject of Channeline, we can talk about one more Channeline project, and I can save others for another day. But this project was in Boulder, Colorado. I'm looking for a good aerial picture. I thought I favorited the best one, but here's the pipe. Goes across the main road right in, not necessarily downtown Boulder, Colorado, but right off Highway 36. So this culvert probably has 5,000 cars go over it every single day. And then this was also done the week of CU's graduation. So not quite a week that you could rip up the road. And aside from closing down one lane to unload pipe for an hour, this road was completely unobstructed. So they staged all the liner across the side of the road. As you can see here, they had grouting ports put in various sections of liners because it was a little bit of snug fit. Also, this was a 60-inch by 30-inch host CMP with a 7-degree bend. So backing up a little bit more, initially the project was spec'd cured in place, but cured in place pipe could not design a fully structural liner. So then contractor switched it to spin casting. Turns out you also could not design a fully structural liner, just given the size of the pipe, the bend, the depth of cover. So then the contractor said, we need to rip up this main road in downtown Boulder, which the city quickly said no to and said, I think that guy Michael actually has a solution. So to my knowledge, Channeline's the only fully structural 100-year design life solution for lining this culvert right here. And I'll turn off the volume. You can see here they just wedged a bar between that female joint and then used a winch to, and I'll go to one of the favorited ones that show it, maybe get a little bit more coverage. So had a winch stage on the far end, pulled the 4-foot sections of liner into place, and I don't have, it's tough to get a timing on this one. Again, they had to do 4-foot sections of pipe because they needed to get the 24-inch by 54-inch OD liner around the 7-degree bend for the 60-inch by 30-inch hose CMP. And there you can see the bend piece here. So, and then also this week, it must have been the rainiest week of the last 7 years that I've been in Colorado. There were a few different times where we had to get off the job site because it was just starting to flood a little bit, but still got the job done. Let me see here. So first section of liner was getting put in May 6, 132, and near the end 2 days later with multiple hours of shutdown time. And then went back out there May 17th. The entire liner was grouted in place with the bulkheads built. And again, there you can see the depth of cover and why some other liners couldn't design a fully structural liner here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Any questions on this one? I feel like I skipped part of the story, but
my only question ever on any of these is how does the contractor know what size of liner to get? I mean,
yeah. So for anything that we do, for the straight runs, those are simple. Normally, you can just take some hand measurements, and then from, assuming you don't want a custom profile with or maybe a reducer to dip below a potential belly in the hose pipe, hand measurements should get the job done. So if you have a 72-inch CMP and you see a deflection down to 66 inches, and you know that 63-inch OD liner will fit because you have 3 inches from the smallest point, that's a reasonable amount of comfort. With this one or with, so let's start with this one. There was the 7-degree bend. It's one bend. The hose pipe shape was in decent condition. It was more so just the invert was rusted. There was, that was more, and also just the consequence of if this pipe failed, that's why the city wanted to get ahead of it. So the bend was hand measured and the rest of it was pretty straightforward. With Channeline and with non-circular shapes, we're typically recommending a mandrel test be completed ahead of time, where they just make a wood mock-up of the proposed liner dimensions with the length as well, pull it through with a winch or a cable or whatever else. If the liner mock-up fits, then the liner will fit, and then they can proceed with the manufacturing process. But we've had some very tight-fit liners where that more or less saved the day. I think I'm coming up on the one that I had in mind. Yeah, so it'll be the month before this one. Oh, where are the pictures? There we go. So I don't remember the exact dimensions of this hose pipe. I want to say it was about 10 foot by 8 foot, and the liner dimensions were 7 foot 9 inch by 9 foot 10 and 1/4 inch. So that's why this liner was fitting so snug on the sides and why a mandrel test is so critical. Because if this customized pipe does not fit because it's too large, you're starting to run into some issues. So a mandrel test is more or less the bulletproof way. Hand measurements, especially for straight runs, typically get the job done.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so it's critical that the contractor go out and field verify the existing size
Definitely
of the hose pipe.
I recently ran into a new contractor that did not hand measure, ordered a bunch of liner that did not fit, and then we had to figure out a plan B. And when plan B didn't work for him, we had to work out a plan C. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's these couple projects. I'll save some of the case studies for a future one, or if anybody had any specific projects that they wanted to see, then we're happy to set up another podcast and do so. But we'll be more regular with these. We'll depending on availability of others, we'll get Patrick, we'll get some folks from Snap-Tite on, we'll get some Channeline folks on, and just let people know what's going on in the trenchless world.
Well, it's good talking to you. Excited to see
Likewise.
you next week. We're working on some fun stuff to help our business that we'll start talking about down the road when we get it to start getting it built out. So yeah, a lot of
Sounds
fun
good to me.
coming.
Yeah, pick
All
out
right.
your favorite teriyaki spot in Chelan. I'll see you there.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks, Andy. See ya.
Thank you.